Hey, good evening, welcome back to another stream of Fat Man Paints. Today we're going to carry on working away on our Mawloc. Nearly got the carapace finished yesterday, on Monday. Still a little bit more work I need to do on this fella. I've just realised that I just want to touch up a little bit of the very top dry brush highlights, and there's a couple of little spots of white I want to put in. And then once we've finished that, we're going to move on to the fleshy bits, all the skin, all this stuff that's basically white on this model, and we're going to run a wash over that, a shade paint, and all of a sudden all this detail that's just white at the moment will all hopefully just really pop out. And at that point the model is very much on the road to completion. At that point we'll have done a lot of the detail when we get that skin done, and well, there's several steps to finishing off that fleshy skin area. What we've then got left to do is the claws, the mouth, teeth, tongue, and then just tidy up the basing. So we're not far at all away from getting this fella all done. So I'm going to kick off. I'm going to just clean up a brush and do a little bit of dry brushing, and then I'm going to do a little bit of white, and then we'll move on. If we do have some time, I'm going to be doing a little bit of work on my basing tests, but focus is Mawloc. I want to get this fella out of the way so I can pick up the next challenge, and whether that's going to be these 10 gene stealers here, or might very well be the Neuro Tyrant. I think he looks, from the Leviathan box set, he looks to be coming towards the top of the choice of next models. So we'll see where we go. Mawloc is first though. Right, so as I said, we're going to start with some dry brushing. I'm using a Games Workshop small dry brush, not really very small, but small enough for what we want to do here. Just clean off the brush soap that I just treated it with after the last paint session. Dry it off. And what we're going to be dry brushing once again is Wild Rider Red, and just use a bit of this. And most of the model was done. I just wanted to catch a little bit more around the back end of the tail here, the little spikes we've got on the tail, and also around on the protrusion here, this bit of basing detail. The mandibles and most of this I'm quite happy with. It is just those couple of areas, so there's only a little bit that I want to do on this one. Give the paint a bit of a shake. Don't need much paint for this. Just get some paint on the bristles, and as usual dry brushing. I'm just using a textured kitchen towel to take off most of this paint from the paintbrush. I've seen a lot of people talking recently about texture palettes. They're talking about it not drying the paint out on the brush. It all sounds very sensible, but you know, in the years of painting, I've never found the need for one. I'll give it a go at some point, but just at the moment I don't think it's something that I need to be too concerned about. Right, just a little bit of dry brushing just to catch that. So I think I missed that bit when I was wrapping up last night. There we go, I'm happy with that. Just put a little bit on there. Just a little bit more on the brush. Close that pot. And this is just a very very light dry brush, and really just on the real edges of the carapace area, the edges of this chitin, just to really catch, then highlight up the last bits. So there's still quite a bit of paint on that. There we go. I just want to, there we go. I don't feel I caught these spikes quite enough yesterday. Just run a little more around. That pulling around. Might as well give that a quick run up. There we go. Very hard to tell if there's been any difference from the camera. I can just see that I just a little bit here. I've just got a little bit more detail on that. I'm a little happier with how that's just caught on there. Perfect. Okay. Why not? Awesome. Right. That's that done. Time to give the brush a good clean. Because I get a lot of pigments on this. I'm going to use brush soap. Artist soap, just to make sure I get all that pigment that I've just shoved in there off the brush, so it doesn't interfere with anything else we do with the brush later on. I'll just give it a bit of a clean, take a moment or two. Back to the white. So it's a bit hard to tell, but there's a couple of, on these chimney pieces, there's a couple of little kind of splits on the side of those, and I foolishly, on a very first build, I painted them white, so I kind of need to do that again for total consistency across all of them. So it's one of these where I'd kind of almost wish I'd not, because it's a bit of a rod for my own back. It adds to the detail, it makes the model look a bit better, but it's one of those little things that, you know, on reflection, could I have got away without doing that? Would it have been better? It's certainly been quicker, but you know, not quite as much detail on the finished model. So the kind of the mantra for my painting is, we're not going to win a golden demon. We don't want to. I want to spend, you know, an enjoyable bit of time doing painting on a figure, but I want it to look really good on the battlefield, but not so good you only want to keep it on a display shelf out of the way and never touch it in fear of doing damage or spoiling the paint job, dropping it or anything like that. So we're kind of going for a happy medium. I like to use a lot of dry brushing on my painting. I find that is a great way, you know, when you control it, coupled with washes and some interesting base colours, it's a great way to highlight detail and really make areas of the model pop out really nicely without having to resort to sort of all the edge highlighting and stuff that the heavy metal style and such like from the Games Workshop awesome artists do. So it's a way to have a really good looking model, possibly a bit more grim, dark, as the reference is. God, there's a lot of paint still on here. Still a little bit on there. I'll need to find a pretty small brush to do these little bits of white vent. So I will be using you later. So there we go. Put you away. Out of harm's reach. I think I'm going to use a hello everybody for raiding the chat. I hope you are all good. No idea what a chat raid is. I'm still pretty new to Twitch, so yeah, welcome and enjoy the tedium of watching me paint and the paint dry. I hope you enjoy your stay. It's all going pretty well, thanks. I'm only 7 and a bit hours into this fella, about halfway, and it's coming along okay. I'm looking forward to seeing how the fella ends up after a little more painting. So, a little bit of detail. Hey, yes, modern technology. You are so fortunate that this day and age you can get into see almost anything online. Something like that. Right, so we've got some really small details we need to pop in here. I'll just be quiet for a moment or two as I try and get these done without overpainting too much onto the model. That's one side done. Now the second side. Just a little bit. There we go. Unbridled excitement. Bet you are all bursting with absolutely amazing laughter that somebody will actually watch this crap. Anyway, welcome. I'm enjoying your company. Right, I've just got a little bit of overpaint that I need to touch up on this now. So, not much left to do. and then we can get to do a wash on here, and hopefully that wash will then really just bring out all the skin bits of this Mawloc and get us a little bit closer to having the fella finished. Some nasty overpaint there, I missed that the other night. And normally I will be doing this with a pint of beer beside me, but it is a little bit early. And I've got all that joy to look forward to later on. A couple of hours time. Right, couple more touch-ups to do. I missed the fix of these the other day. There we go. That's pretty much it done. Right, tidy up this paint. Small parts, sharp points, we do. And I have to admit, I find it very therapeutic to sit here and do this. I'm concentrating on this, and I am not worried about all the day's rubbish that I've had to go through. Quite a nice way to unwind. Possibly we've got a huge backlog of Tyranids to paint, which is one of the reasons I started streaming, is to maybe give myself a little motivation to get on and finish everything. If I kind of just get on and do this for some strange bizarre reason, it feels like I'm making more progress than just if I'm painting them all just sitting here alone. Right, so quite happy with how the carapace has come out on this fella now. And we've got our feathering, not too bad. Won't survive much close up, but I think from a certainly tabletop perspective it looks really good. Quite happy with that. So now I'm going to use some Seraphim Sepia shade. I'm just going to splat that all over the white bits of the model. And I splat that in the model, and all of a sudden hopefully all these details, all the ribs and the bits and greebles and stuff will really pop out for this one. Yeah, I'll have to have a look at your stream. I have to admit I've not done too much digging around with Twitch. I've only really been using it for about a week, so I've no real idea about what I'm doing. It's got a cheap shitty webcam that gives a passable image. And yeah, managed to hook it up on the desk and away I went. That noise is my vortex. Makes sense. Right, how's that coming at the bottom of the pot? Yeah, that's stuck there quite a bit. And even the ball bearings are a bit mixed up on there. It's a lot more shaking, that one. Workshop paints. Look at that. Right, let's see if that helps his teeth are shaking. Alright, yeah. Little bearings are freed now at least. That looked like one big lump of paint. I've got 2 ball bearings in there, but yeah, not wonderful stuff. I have to admit, previous sets of this paint I've had have been absolutely fine, but I know this particular one, I don't know if it's a bad batch or if it's sat at the shelves too long. I don't know. Giving it a bit more agitation, see if we can get everything done. If it's not mixed properly, then we're just doing kind of flavoured medium across the model rather than actually pigment. So the whole thing won't look as good as we'd want. I don't know, I think I read somewhere that for a lot of them they did something, but I know, it's whatever Games Workshop do, isn't it? You have a winning formula, change it and charge more. I think that's actually not too bad then. That seems to be freed up quite a bit. Right. Clean off that one. Put it out of the way. Brush fine. Let's see how we do. That top will come flopping down like the little Games Workshop stuff that it is. Right, I'm going to start probably on the chest area here, see if we can. There's some definition coming out on here. Quite a large brush because obviously we've got quite a large area to paint. Try and work out those bubbles as well. So the paint style I use is quite forgiving, so if I've got any overpaint for when I did the chit-in areas, I just paint it white and then I'll cover it with the shade. And the shade, because it is a thin paint, if I get a little bit over the chit-in areas, it doesn't really tell, you can't notice, so quite forgiving in the approach I'm taking for this one, which is good because I'm not the world's most accurate painter. quite got anything in the cracks. I will come back later on and just touch in a little more. Right, let's start. Just got the whole of the bloody thing to get done now. Right. More account raiders. Welcome to the Society of Watching Paint Dry. There may be one or two of us here. Painting a pretty large fella. We've got Mawloc from Games Workshop Warhammer 40k range, which at some point may even get fielded on the table. Yeah, I've also got the Leviathan box. It's built. I haven't started painting any of the bits yet, so I can't offer anything specific. Take your time, enjoy it is probably the most banal advice I can give at the moment for it. I think some of the larger models are going to be quite, if you've fully assembled it, heads and all, some of the larger ones are going to be a little tricky to get to some of the detail, I think, but overall I think the detail in the models is really good, certainly compared to some of the earlier sculpts we've got. I think the idea is pick a style, pick a colour for the body, pick a colour, a contrasting colour, the kind of the armour, the carapace type areas. Experiment a little bit and then stick with something and come up with a really simple recipe that's repeatable, and then when you do that you just practice on the smaller things, the barb gaunts or the termagants, and when you're happy with the process and happy with the colour, then move on to the larger ones and take a little more time on, you know, following the same process with the same colours, but you know, just taking a little bit longer, being a little more careful, a little more accurate, painting in a little more detail on them. That's pretty much what I did for my Tyranid style. Is I think I picked a Broodlord to start because it was a medium size, but it wasn't one of the big fellas. There was plenty of detail, but it was kind of representative of most of the Tyranid kind of range. It had quite a bit of armour, had nice gory mouth, it had big claws. So there was kind of standard stuff that I could paint on there, which I'd apply to all the rest of the models. You know, I'd set a style about how I approach the armour, the chitin, set a style about how I approach the body colours, experimented, made notes, kept the notes, refined the notes, and eventually came up with a process that, you know, I found repeatable, that then I can apply to the rest of the army. I think it's a lot easier with sort of the Space Marine fellas, because there's a lot more defined processes and recipes out there for salamanders or ultramarines, kind of whatever flavour you want to put in for your marine army. So you can kind of just pick a lot of the online guides and go for it. Right, slowly starting to take on a bit more of a life. These bits when it's stuck around the ground aren't much fun. Right, I'll just keep going round and round. I have previously painted a Trigon, which is a very, very similar model to this one. And I think I hated this bit around the base quite a lot. It's getting under the armour and along the skin bits was just a bit tricky, but nearly past it all. Once the tail actually comes off the base and starts rising, it's a lot easier. There we go. Brush can flow a bit better. At the end of this process, if I've done it right, there should be absolutely no white visible on the model anymore. So I've got to cover everything, so in the future steps, if I do miss anything, all that primer layer will have gone. So if finally I miss something when I think the model's finished, it won't matter because it will be covered with the shade paint. It will be fine. Right. Side up there. Should we paint up on the other side? Right, it looks pretty rough so far, but the next layers after I do on this will be a whole bunch of dry brushing, and it'll very much soften the kind of harshness of the shade, and it will even it out very much across the overall model. So will take a while to finally do it because I've got 4 or 5 different layers I want to put in of the dry brushing, and it will take a couple of hours from start to finish to get there, but it will very much even out, soften this and give much more of a gentle transition between the darkest shadows and the peaks of the body areas. Dum, dum, dum. Let's give the brush a quick clean. Let's clean off some of that pigment. Yeah, I've never done any Age of Sigmar stuff, so it's all a bit different. You're right. I have to admit, I am tempted by a box of skeletons from Age of Sigmar. I'm back when I was a kid in the early 80s. I had lots and lots of Citadel little white pewter lead miniatures, and I had lots and lots of skeletons in that lot, and they were awesome, and I liked painting them. But obviously as you get older and things get lost in between house moves and growing up and what have you, I've misplaced a lot of them. But I'm really quite tempted to buy a new skeleton army, not to play, just to build and paint. Really, I think they look great. So, what particular faction do you build and paint in the Age of Sigmar? Yes, I'm hitting quite very much middle age, if not slightly older. I think ultimately I'm still a bit of a kid at heart. Things like building and painting models like this, you know, I've grown up from my music choices of my early years, early teen years at least. Yeah, there's quite a mix there between your Stormcast. Those are kind of like the Space Marine poster boys, I think, aren't they, of Age of Sigmar. A bit of chaos in there. Nice mix. So my lad is the one who plays Warhammer. He loves playing. Yeah, he kind of likes the building side. Really doesn't like the painting side. So I've kind of inherited the models to paint for him, which is fine. I quite enjoying it. It's quite relaxing and therapeutic. You know, over the years we started collecting probably just before lockdown for COVID. Thank you for NID enabling, yeah. So we started just around COVID start, and we really focused on NIDs, but sort of through that process we got a whole bunch of Space Marines, things like the Leviathan, and when we first got the No Fear and Dark Imperium sets, we got a whole bunch of Space Marines as well we need to paint. Hello, daughter. Yeah. And my daughter's laughing at me.
People.
She can't believe I talk to random people while painting models. She thinks it's very funny.
It is.
She's also very little and she doesn't know.
I'm not that short.
Not short little. Young little.
Young.
Anyway, thank you, Pete Petal.
Okay.
I'll see you later.
See you later.
Right, we're getting there. It's a slow, laborious process. It's a bit messy. Doesn't look the neatest, but as I said, when I do some dry brushing later on, it should all even and settle out. It certainly has done on all the other models I've painted, so no reason to suggest it'll be any different on this fellow when I get there. Well, there are some odd angles to try and get into to get all that painting. Once I have gone and done all this, I will look at the whole model again, just fill in any bits that I've missed, because I will have missed some. Too many little nooks and crannies on this fella to be able to get it all done in one clean pass. Like. It is. I'll need to explain that to her. This is very important work. So much more important than my day job. So much more enjoyable than my day job. That is almost goes without saying. Right. Hopefully you can see a bit of where we're getting to on this. Oh, still a long way to go. I think once this fella's done, I think I might be moving on to the Neuro Tyrant from the Leviathan set, and his two little marking out things that come with him. I think that seems to be the next favourite model, so at some point in the next couple of days I'll grab him and start doing the pre-basing work to, now obviously every big model needs a Tyranid, needs a skull on it to classify as a Warhammer model, so I'm sticking some of those on the base and adding some rock detail on there just to help break up the size of the bases, but that's going to be next. Cheers mate, have a good sleep, enjoy, have a rest. Good luck when you do your nib painting for the Leviathan set. I'm sure you're going to come up with an awesome scheme, and I hope you really enjoy it. Look forward to seeing some results on a post somewhere. Take care. Oh, this is hard work, and by hard I mean deathly dull. Keep missing little bits, but we get there. So I've chosen a large brush for this, because if I had a small brush it'd take a couple of years I think to finish it off. At least the large brush allows me to take the brute aftershave approach and just splash it all over. Still have the tail to do. I still have these antennae thingy stuff on the back. thread the needle to get a lot in there. Ooh. Just a bit over there. Just a bit down there. This is getting so dull, at some point I'm going to have to grab some alcohol. I think it's the only way to survive this now. We're getting very, very close to the limit of doing this sober. But it is, yeah, 20 to 10. But it is 20 to 10, much later than I thought it was. I thought it was still sort of like 8 o'clock-ish. There we go. Time flies when you're painting Tyranids. Right, what have I missed? Alright, let's just finish these claw pieces and then I'll go and give the brush a bit of a clean. Get any of this dried pigment off. And then give the paint another shake, re-agitate. Pigment. Pigment all sorted out again. Then we'll start on the head and the back. Right, I've still got the bottom of the tail to do. Anyway, I'm going to pop in there for a moment. Let's close you. Just need the brush. Good clean there. Pigment stuck in there, let's give it a proper clean. Let's get some brush soap and just take out that pigment, because all of that's just stopping the paint flowing properly on the brush when it comes to painting. Let's do a proper job, let's do a proper clean on this thing. Oh, my water's a bit mucky, so I'll change my water, grab a beer and come back and finish this layer. See the pigment still in there. A little bit more, should be fine. There we go. Now clean. I get a brush is fine. Right, let me just go and change my water. I'll be back in a couple of moments. We'll push on a bit more with this fella. Ted, can you just log out when you finish? So unfortunately when I say beer, what I mean is piss poor cooking lager. That's all we've got. Does have the advantage though, it's very, very cold. After a day like today, nice cold beer, smell of paint in the morning. Oh, that's all good. Right, these out of the way. Get this paint agitated again. Certainly noticed it's sticking a lot to the bottom of the pot, which is basically means all the pigment's there and all the carrier is not. A bit spinnable effects. Right, I think I'm going to approach the head next. And I'm not looking forward to doing that last, the tail bit, to be honest. So let's leave that to last. All right, onwards. Hey there, cool catfish. How are you this evening? I hope you're doing at least as well as I am, and that your Wednesday night is treating you well, or even Wednesday day, depending where you are. You'll join me as I'm getting into the about halfway through, I think, overall painting this this Mawloc. So we just finished the carapace work. Some light touch up earlier on, and now I'm working through all the body bits, the I suppose skin, flesh, not quite sure what you'd call this for a Tyranid. I'm working through this part of the model. I'm painting with Games Workshop Seraphim Shade. So basically getting in all the little crooks and crannies of the detail in the model. So it's really putting a lot of contrast between the raised areas and those recesses, so to bring out a lot of that detail that we've got going in the model. But it is just the first of several stages of my process anyway, first of several stages to do the skin, the flesh bits of the Tyranids. We've got a lot of dry brushing to do after we've got this first layer of shade on. into those little gaps. Just go on under the neck. The other side. Problem with a spiky bit model like this is sometimes it can be quite hard to get into the nooks and crannies of the model, but at the same time, it's, apart from the head, which got stuck on before I could say not to, would still probably paint most of the model assembled. I normally would have kept the head off, put it on a stick for painting this one, and I could really get behind it and get all around. But it's not to be on this model, so we make do. Just all around. So before, the idea is to have absolutely none of the white primer shining through by the time I finish this. Everything will have either be the kind of red black carapace and done, or it will have the Seraphim wash over it. I'll be showing this kind of murky brownish colour. And that way I know that through the whole model that if I do miss anything later on, it's going to be one of those two basic colours. It's either going to be carapace or it's going to be this kind of base skin colour. That way I can always cover up any bits that either are too difficult to get to, won't be seen too well, or I just kind of forget and miss. Right, we're getting there on the head. Bit of throwing the needle, I think, with this paintbrush to get those a bit well behind the head. Well, very much advantage of painting in subsections for that, at least. Being able to paint behind there, but that doesn't look too bad. Get away with that today. There's a bit of claw there. Let's get that done while I'm here. Let's get under the jaw. So you're just going to have to see the base for a minute while I angle the model so I can get there. Let's get the inside of the mouth, even though I'll be painting this pink and other colours later on. As I said, I just want to get everything covered in this shade, just so I know that we've got a base to work from that's consistent. So for the mouth bit, what I'll be doing later on is painting it pink, and then, I think, if I remember correctly, it's basically bubblegum pink. But then there's some washes across there that'll fall into all those recesses. And then if it's still not looking great, there'll be a bit of a dry brush as well, just to catch the edge details even further. Right, inside of these things, mandible pieces, a bit of chlorine mist. So when I've gone over this and I think I've finished, I will give it a good look through again, painting all the bits that I have missed, because I know I will have. One advantage in making sure that I paint everything with the wash is that it doesn't interfere too much with the work I've done on the chitin either, because it's a very thin wash. You can't really tell if I've got a bit of overpaint. So when I blend the layers together, it all comes across okay. Some more paint at the bottom of the mouth under there. So up here, very phallic, proboscis, tongue, weapon. I don't know with the Tyranids. Right, not too bad for a first coat in this area. Still got plenty to do. Let's just get behind the head here. A lot of paint on there. Work that in. Right. What are we doing? So there's a couple of areas that I missed back here. Obviously. Very much of a if you can see it, you can paint it kind of approach. If you can't see it, it really doesn't matter. But at the same time, as best as you can to cover everything. Alright, big dollop in here. There we go, that's better. Oh, how are we doing? Right. pigment's still catching on the brush a bit, so there we go, that's cleaned off. I'm going to pick a slightly smaller brush now to paint in some of these details on the back, so I don't trust my big old brush to not be messy on those. This is just the largest size there, it's got a lot of bristles so I can catch a lot of paint on it. And it just helps a bit on some of these details. There we go. I'll have a look at another model in a moment, but I'm going to paint these 6 across the back now. Oh, I missed the back of the skull, never mind. Progress on this. Let's get either side of these. And it's also just touching these bits of the vents that did white before. And that'll do. those, just the spot there and the vents on this side. Let's just get these antenna things on the head finished off. Come underneath now. Then I'll be moving back to the big brush in a moment or two. To do the back of the head, there's a bit there that I'll need a big dollop from a large brush to put in. It's difficult to see unless you're at the right angle. It'll be much easier to do with a large brush than this little one. And then I'll use the large brush to finish off the tail section. Right, let's put some more bits that I've missed. Touch those in. So this is forgiving. Once I've finished this first coat and made sure that every bit is covered, I will be doing a lot of dry brushing to soften all these layers. Hopefully get a nice even finish across everything. So at the moment it's a bit ugly, it's a bit mixed in the results. Some bits are a bit over exposed, some bits a bit under, but the dry brushing will hopefully even all that out quite nicely. There's some more bits I still missed on there. Do for the time being. Let's give that brush a good clean. Take a shot. Back to the big fella. And drop a big dollop in behind the head here to make sure that's all covered in. This side as well. Supposed to be good. And looking down, So a couple of other areas that I've missed. It's so busy, it's kind of almost hard to see sometimes what's painted and what's not. Right. What I need to do now is work on the, see there, this inside of the tail bit around here, which is, to be fair, bloody awful to get to. It's really quite a tricky paint. Hey ho, let's go for it. That's why we're here. Top bit's easy, the end bit's easy. It's a bit in the middle that's the problem. A lot of the problems in here with grass tufts and stuff, just to kind of hide some of it, so I'll do the best that I can. I guess there's a lot of, so if you can't see it or see it well, it doesn't matter how poorly it's painted, as long as it's not just bare white, as long as there's some resemblance to the rest of the skin areas as it should do. I think it'll be fine. There we go, coming along. It's also at this point that I'm quite happy that, as I said, the wash doesn't interfere too much with the chitting that's already painted. It doesn't, if you get a slight overpaint, it's such a thin wash, get away with it. Oh yeah, it's not that bad in the end. Any more painting. The base, the brush is just catching up. That will be an entirely separate painting process. That will be right towards the end of the model. And this front is the bit that really pulls it all together. Also notice I keep my paint well away from my failing arms, flailing, because I've knocked one of these pots over once too often. Right, I think we're not a million miles away my first pass with the shade. I will give the model a good once over from multiple angles and make sure I've hid my plan of everything is either part of the red-black carapace or it's got this shade on it, so we know that, you know, from this point, even if we were to give up, we could probably feel that. Hopefully you can see on the camera that putting that shade over the model has really toned down that white, but also highlighted an awful lot of the detail in there. Even if it is a little uneven in some of the areas, but that's what the next few stages will really try and address. Just get these claws done so I don't get confused, just in case. I'll stick to the everything's got to be one to the. I think I've noticed that this file has one of the biggest Tyranid eyes that I've ever seen, so painting that is actually going to be not a chore. There's a lot of the Tyranid that are just terrible dots I can't see, and therefore they, if I'm being honest, they don't get painted. Oh, just a bit through there. Just a bit of the turn back there. How we do it? So, as I said, I just need to move the model around now from various angles, and if I spot anything that isn't the colour I want it to be, let's just touch it in. Now these claws themselves, they'll be repainted later on, but as we said, one colour or t'other. Nothing left out. I'm sure I'll get under those as well. Right, how far we need to go? Thank you, daughter.
You're welcome.
Good night.
Night-night.
Good night, sweetheart. Love you too, Petal. I'll see you in the morning. Kids are great. They bring gifts when requested. Right, I'm hoping we're getting nearly here now because I'm getting a bit bored of this. So what I also try and do now is just make sure that all these recessed areas have some shade in them, because that will definitely help highlight all these when we do the dry brushing in the next stages. I am going to let this thing dry nicely before. I don't want to catch any of the dry brushing to accidentally get mixed in with the paint that we've just put in here. Right, what have I missed? Those bits there. Blimey, there's so much little bits and pieces here and there. Alright, are we nearly there yet? God, I keep looking and there keeps being more and more that I've not painted. Just on the back of these now, I think could very well be it, because I'm ringing out seeing bits of white as I'm going through. Every time I still keep looking, I still see spots. And there's another one. This is probably, no, I'll put it on that side. At some point I'm just going to have to call it. Right. That is nearly don't know how do I get to that bit there. That is done. Anything else now? We'll be just dry brushing over and tidying that up. Right, time for a brush clean. Time for a beer. Don't leave your brushes in pots of water like that. It's really not good for them. To take out of this. So now I've done this, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 layers of increasingly kind of off-white, beigey kind of colours to just bring out and even out all that detail on that wash. So, you know, they're all a reasonably light layer of dry brushing that you go through. You don't necessarily need to spend a long time on each layer. But what I find is if I do the dry brushing, it really does. Like I said, it evens out that rather splotchy wash that we've got there, the shade. But it also really starts to highlight the difference between those recesses and the top stuff. So it looks a bit mucky at the moment, but I know that the process works. I've used it on all of the Tyranids we've done so far, and like I said, the process works. It evens it all out. I'm nearly done with this brush, and I've got a busy day tomorrow of work, so I think might be just about done for the evening. tomorrow there'll be a case of Yumi and the alarm clock as you fall asleep with Yumi and the dry brush as we go through and finish off. Right, let's just give her. Yeah, that's fine. That's clean. There's any pigment left on there? No, we're all good. Let's just put a bit of brush soap in there to help maintain the shape of that one. There we go, we're good with that. Good with that, and I'll do the same for this one, just make sure that we've got all the paint off there. And there we go. Right. So while we're tidying up, I'll call it quits there for tonight. And we have our array of varying colours of dry brushing to do tomorrow. And just it's increasing through. Plus a little bit of this fella, just to do those kind of little tears in the arms and joints that Tyranids are renowned for. That's our fun Thursday night. Anyway, thanks for joining me. I hope it hasn't been as dull as it may have been. Sorry remnant of chaos. Thank you for joining. I just caught the tail end of this now. I've just finished off doing the first layer of flesh for my very spiky Tyranid, this Mawloc we're doing here. I'm back tomorrow at 10 o'clock UK time, PM, to do my wide array of finishing off dry brushing, just to touch off the top of that model and get it done. Anyway, so thanks for joining. Maybe join me again tomorrow and watch me dry brush until I can't stand it anymore. Anyway, take care everybody, be good, be safe. See you next time.